When I first discovered Young Lean, I pretty much dismissed them as meme music, because they were just, at that time, they were just writing songs about Mario Kart, and Arizona iced tea. And it just didn't leave an impression on me. But years later, I came across this picture of Jonatan. And for whatever reason, I was just like, I don't know, I kind of just like this guy now. And that was it for me. I've been a fan ever since. I would compare Jonatan to somebody like Daniel Johnston. And it's not because they are similar kinds of artists, It's just because, I'm not sure that I would care so much about their music if I wasn't also aware of the people behind the music, It's really their personas that I feel a connection to. And so it's not just music for me. Sugar World is the third album from Jonatan leandoer96. This is one of Jonatan's side projects, and it's essentially a collection of love songs. I was talking to my friend TJ about this album, because he actually heard it before me. We just have a group chat, so we were talking about it, and he described the album as, he says, this is like kind of what I expect to hear in a garage, where there's lots of Playboy posters, and the owner calls it a man cave, but in the best way possible, though. And I think he's exactly right. That's how it's a good way to sum it up. On this album, Jonatan is really embracing the weirdo karaoke vibes that he's been playing with on the previous two albums from this project. Except I would say he's leaning into it even more this time. Even some of the instrumentals kind of sound like karaoke instrumentals. Even just the way that Jonatan uses his voice on this project reminds me a lot of karaoke, because he's not like traditionally a good singer, if you know what I mean. But I don't know, I really like his voice. I think it's got a lot of character. He's got like this thick Swedish accent, and the inflections in his voice, they convey a lot of attitude and confidence. It's like he knows that he can't hold a note very well, right? And yet he's decided that he's going to be a singer anyway. And I think I really like that. I think it's a very bold, creative decision, and I find it very charming. In fact, that's exactly what I like to see from an artist, I like when an artist will just lean into whatever it is they have to give, as opposed to just trying to make something that they think I want to hear or that I want to see. And I think that Jonatan is doing exactly that on this album. I'd also like to talk about the lyrics on this thing, because I think he's also very gifted with words. And I think it's especially remarkable since English is his second language. He's just very imaginative in the way that he writes, I think. And on this album, I think there's a very interesting mix of emotional moments and playful moments, as well as surreal moments. Even with some of these track titles, I just find them very provocative. You have songs like Nightmare Amusement Park, Swedish Elvis Storm, If I'm Born, I Have to Live. Things don't always make sense with the lyrics and the song titles, right? But they feel very inspired to me, or like I find them very inspiring. And so I connect with them easily. And I find the music on this album to be rather uplifting, but in a dramatic sort of way. I feel like these songs, they celebrate love and romance in the same way that you would expect from any pop song. But at the same time, I think it's also celebrating the fact that love and romance are actually broken concepts. And I think that's what I find the most compelling about this music. These songs kind of remind me of moments in my life where, everything could be falling apart around me, and yet I find a way to feel peaceful about it. And I can just look at the bigger picture and appreciate the bigger picture of my life, Anyway, I would say my experience with the Sugar World, with this album, has been a very pleasant one. I think it's just very easy for me to connect with the way that Jonatan expresses himself in so many different ways across so many different projects. And I feel like with this one, actually with many of his albums, I feel like they've just met me at the right time in my life. The first album I heard from this project, the first album from this project is called Psychopath Ballads. And that album is kind of like the antithesis of Sugar World, because it's just this really brutal and depressing breakup album. And I feel like when I first heard that, that was the right thing for me to hear at that time. And I feel very similarly about Sugar World, because I feel like now Jonatan is at a time in his life where he's lightened up quite a bit over the years, but he's not lightening up all the way. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's exactly where I'm at in my life too. I think that this music will work for you if you have a realistic amount of light about you. You know, or I feel like at least that is the pocket that it is filling for me.